news from wind farm, carp.
Carpe diem.
And welcome. We are here live at LTV. I'm Matt Lownes. I'm live at LTV. Supervisor Peter Van Scoyoc is live at Town Hall. We're doing things a little bit differently. We got a new team doing the production. Thank you to John and Matt Chapman and Jody Gambino in the control room. Let's do this. Peter, how you doing? How was your weekend?
I'm doing well, Matt. It was a brisk weekend. Nice, spent a nice Mother's Day with my bride, and we like to do some gardening this time of year, but it was rather brisk out.
Did you play a violin tune for your wife?
No. In fact, I didn't play any music for my wife, but we did have a nice time. I did cook her a really nice seafood dinner. I made a panko crusted halibut with fresh garden asparagus and soft shell crabs, sauteed soft shell crabs, and some little necks as an appetizer. So,
where was my invite?
This was just immediate family, Matt. So my son did come out from New York City and spend the day with us. And help plant a nice magnolia tree for my wife, and so we had a very nice time. I'm looking forward to the weather warming up. It's when it's colder here than it is in Stowe, Vermont, then I get concerned. But this time of year with the cooler ocean temperatures surrounding us, things don't warm up as quick as we'd like. And we're inland, even if it's further north, tends to warm up quicker. It'll hit us all at once. It's going to probably just go like it does in some years from, low to mid 50s, and then suddenly it'll be like 85 degrees, and everybody will be here for the summer, and that's how fast it'll happen probably.
Yeah, it's going to be, roughly, should get in the 60s this weekend. Obviously, we're all looking forward to the warm weather, get the plants going again, and make our town look beautiful. Obviously in the late spring, early summer.
Has changed our plans. We were planning on starting the beach renourishment project in Montauk, but with northeast winds and high wave action, we're going to be postponing that, and we'll still be done well before the summer and Memorial Day as well. But we're going to take a little bit later start this year. Last year, as you know, we had a nor'easter Memorial Day weekend. Mm-hmm. And that kind of had thwarted our efforts. We had to do an additional sand replenishment last year. We're trying to avoid that this year.
Yeah, and I know that certain things have been pushed back due to whether it be supply chain or it be environment. We'll get into some of the stuff that I have down here. But let's start off with something from your previous agenda. We now do the show every 2 weeks. So from the May 5th Cinco de Mayo agenda, I noticed the recognition of Juneteenth as a town holiday. Can you explain a little bit about the town's decision to do that?
Yes. Well, we think it's an important holiday to observe here locally. It's also been a national and state holiday declaration. The local school districts are closed for Juneteenth, and we felt it was appropriate as well. The town employees for 2022 will be observing Juneteenth holiday. Town Hall will be closed on the 20th of June. So Monday the 20th, if you're looking to get any kind of permits or do any other town hall business, do it before the 20th, during the week before, or 21st or later. We'll be closed on the 20th.
Yeah, no, I mean, you see this movement happening across the country. It is for the right reasons, right cause, and I think it's a good decision. Let's move on to, we'll get into some other stuff from the agenda later on. A lot of people have obviously over time been talking about global warming and its effects, and that includes what the town is now unveiling town-wide as the Coastal Resilience Plan draft, otherwise known as CARP. The CARP evaluates key coastal risks our community currently faces and highlights the drastic increase in severity over those risks. With rising sea levels and increased intensive coastal storms, we will see an increasing impact on nearshore homes and communities, which is us. The need to immediately begin resilience projects and policies is urgent. Can you explain the town's, can you really go into what CARP is and the town's urgency moving forward, as obviously we don't want to see our beautiful oceans and everything, our community, get torn apart?
Well, we are a coastal community, and we have a fair amount of development around the coastline that represents a significant amount of the town's tax base. And the South Fork is one of the most vulnerable areas in the country in terms of tax evaluation at risk from sea level rise and coastal storms. So that's an important consideration. We've seen sea levels increasing ever since the Ice Age ended, and the rate of increase is predicted to, accelerate significantly. So that by the year 2100, it's possible that, the South Fork, East Hampton will really become an archipelago of small islands, especially true in Montauk, where significant sea level rise will connect Block Island Sound with the Atlantic Ocean across Lake Montauk, across Fort Pond, across Nap Peak Stretch, and even potentially 3 Mile Harbor, through to Hook Pond. So, this is not beyond the realm of possibility. In fact, it's predicted to be a likely outcome. We have some period of time now to prepare for these changes. And really, this is about adapting to the changes that we see in our climate and in our coastline, and identifying those areas that are at highest risk and coming up with plans and solutions to address this. And in some cases, it might mean hardening critical infrastructure, roadways or the like, elevating structures, moving back from harm's way, and planning now and making steps in that direction now will mean that there'll be less disruption, that our community will be more vibrant and viable in the future than it would otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean that's all we can really do, right? Is try to preserve our beautiful coasts. I mean, Maine Beach, I know it's in the village, but it was just voted third best beach in the country. That's a really good thing. We take pride in having beautiful areas. It's a reason people come here in the summer. And speaking of bad transition, but speaking of beautiful things, the Brooks Park site recently was listed as one of the 11 most endangered historic places in the United States by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Designation, quote, is about raising awareness of the site and the people who are fighting so hard to save it. You recently said to the committee to say, I feel that there is not enough community support to justify the expenditure to have these structures restored, and I feel confident that things have reached critical mass. And you praised the committee to the town board, saying they have been extremely successful in conveying to the public the importance of these buildings and the history of art in Springs. With that being said, can you explain the importance of this site and the change of opinion of the town board over the last 9 years or so from when you originally bought the property, and also the line of thought of changing what to do with the property?
Well, first of all, let me just make a clarification that the committee that you're referring to is the group of private individuals taking interest in this property, and not the town property management committee.
Yes.
Which I formed back in 2014 to take a look at properties underutilized and orphaned properties that the town was in possession of, and to decide and figure out how best to deal with them. And we've had a number of successes. Fort Pond House was restored, built in 1925, sits on about 4-acre peninsula on the west side of Fort Pond. That property was scheduled to be sold as surplus property to be developed by the Wilkinson administration. We're fortunate to be able to stop that sale and keep that property in the public's as part of a public holding and utilized now. It's a beautiful park. I suggest anybody who hasn't been there, check it out. We also have worked on the Farm Museum on North Main Street. We've had Duck Creek restored, and that's a really viable and vibrant, organization, ACDC Arts at Ducks Creek. They just announced their season of events and exhibitions there. That's another great success. But this particular property you're talking about, Brooks Park, was originally purchased, I think, in 2013 as CPF open space. It's 11.3 acres in Springs off Neck Path, and it had a few old structures which were scheduled to be demolished when we first purchased the property. A couple of people stepped forward and said, wait a minute, some of these buildings are important because they were owned by James Brooks and Charlotte Park, who were known as being part of the abstract expressionist art movement, a movement that really started here in Springs and is world-renowned. Artists such as Jackson Pollock, Willem de Kooning, Jonathan Little, and others. So we hit the pause button. We spent some money and had a steel girder placed in the hold up the collapsing roof of James Brooks' studio, and kind of sought to find if there was enough support in a community organization that would take over management and operations of these structures if we were to rebuild them. There were kind of fits and starts, and really nothing coalesced for a number of years. Eventually, there was a license agreement that was drawn up between the town and Peconic Historic Preservation, 501c3, with the idea of bringing this forward to a community art, historic art, structures, and that's floundered and failed, and so we were preparing to demolish the buildings again, and another group of people came forward and have worked very hard to bring public awareness. And this time around, we've had a much stronger response from the public. We had, I think, 150 people show up at the property, along with our state assemblyman, Fred Thiel. I've received numerous emails from members of the public urging me to try to protect this site, restore some of the buildings. So, at this point, I personally feel like there's enough interest in the public at large to support us moving forward. What that plan ultimately ends up being, I'm not sure yet in terms of restoration, whether or not all the structures are restored or whether just some of them are restored. But there is a group of individuals who are in the process of putting together a 501c3 not-for-profit that could potentially take over management and operations of the site should we decide to restore.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds awesome. I know that my brother's very into the arts, and I fully understand, like you said, the de Koonings, Pollock. I remember as a kid going to the Pollock house in the summer and doing like a little camp art thing, and we were splattering paint everywhere, and it was a ton of fun. There's importance in this, and I've recognized from my reading and seeing out in the public all the people that do care about these sites, and they're passionate about it. Art has a very strong hold out here in its beginnings, all the way from the 1920s and 30s. The original celebrities of the world moved to the Hamptons. And they were all artists, so it's very important to keep, and I think it's going to be cool to see what happens with it in the future. I did want to get into some East Hampton town crime numbers that came out, very positive things. If I could maybe just have the control room raise Peter's voice up a little bit. I'm having trouble hearing him. Sorry, folks at home, we're working some new processes here today. We're having fun. Just some small little hiccups, as you could say. But we'll get right back to it. East Hampton Town Police Chief Michael Sarlo said some of the national trends in both personal crime and property crime that have been spiking have not impacted us here. We've trended almost down in every criminal defense category over the last few years. As you can see, I got the numbers right here in front of me. Criminal mischief, burglary, and larceny are all down. Of over 30,000 interactions with the public in 2021, only 2 civilian complaints against officers were logged. That's incredible. Only 8 uses of force were needed. Also incredible. Only 6 officers were injured, the fewest numbers of injuries in 10 years. Also incredible. Average response time just over 8 minutes, and when you consider how far they have to go, that's incredible. And then we get into some more specifics. Quality of life complaints for Montauk continue to be a significant portion of the workload. Noise complaints are at all-time highs. Disturbances on beach is at an all-time high, but a lot of it is dog-related. And in fairness, the Marine Division is spread very thin. There has been some 911 mishaps, wasting crucial time due to staff shortages, which we'll get into in a second. Parking tickets were less than half of the 2020 and pre-COVID figures. Citations are down for violations as well, even though car accidents have been highest since 2017. And the telehealth program is a massive success. It's been credited with an 80% reduction in trips to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation. And then finally, the 5 points of focus from Chief Sarlo are training, language access, accountability and transparency, community outreach, and the well-being of the officers. Sorry, that was a lot. I tried going as fast as I could and shorten where I could. Mostly good. My first question for you is, are there any plans to add officers due to the staff shortages as the population only gets bigger and bigger out here over the years?
So first of all, I think it's important to take the staff issue in context. We had the pandemic, which suspended Suffolk County's police academy. And that really put us in a bad position in a couple of years where we've had a number of senior officers retiring. So there's been this turnover. So we have a fairly young force right now. We have been, as soon as possible, replacing and backfilling those positions. There really isn't any shortage of staff in the PD right now. We also had some injuries of folks that were out. Some of those folks will be back on or will be retiring, but the positions we expect to be, pretty much fully staffed ahead of the season. We also have in the Marine Patrol pretty much full staffing. We've just hired some more additional part-time officers as well. So I think we're in pretty good shape coming into the season. Going back through the pandemic, some of the numbers like on larceny and whatnot might be down just because the number of houses that were traditionally unoccupied during much of the year now are occupied all the time. And so that's, I think maybe one of the reasons. Also, it's really hard to tell with these last 2 years being COVID, what kind of trends are related to COVID and what are really not related. But I think we're in really good shape. I think, under the leadership of Chief Sarlo, we have an excellent community police force. It's demonstrated. Yeah. I think we spoke about it before. We had just recently, a situation where a young woman went into labor ahead of time, and we had an officers responding who safely delivered that child, I think on the front porch of the house.
Yeah.
Under, extenuating circumstances. The breadth of calls that our officers answer is really remarkable. Everything from 911 misdials to babies being born on porches, or some other kind of medical aid being administered. We've had another number of situations where our officers have responded and saved people's lives. on the spot before, paramedics get there. So, I think, we have a lot to be proud of with our local police force. As the chief, said in his presentation, there's always room for improvement. He highlighted a number of areas that were important to continue to work on. And, we, as part of the police reform effort, identified areas that we need to continually work on. And a lot of that has to do with community outreach, engagement with the general public so they understand policing better, and so that our police can better understand, the citizens' perspective as well. Again, there have been plenty of opportunities to have this type of engagement. In some cases, the community really hasn't been, maybe as interested or engaged with those efforts. Mental health and substance abuse is an area of concern, and as you mentioned, having that telehealth capability means that when there is an episode that a person who may be, experiencing a mental crisis in that moment does not have to be, carted by police, handcuffed in the back of a police car to Stony Brook University. That was really not a tenable situation for both police and for, private individuals. They instead could have intervention with professional, health caregivers. And that has, I think, as you said, I think it's reduced those types of situations by about 80%. So, there are successes. There's still areas where we, have continual issues that we work on, and they deal with quality of life issues primarily. You mentioned noise complaints are up. You have quality of life with night scene, various locations like Montauk. But all in all, I think we're in good position. We hold a weekly enforcement meeting where we're coordinating efforts with code enforcement, fire marshals, building inspector, police department, and marine patrol in season. And so everybody's on the same page. And if we're starting to see some issues that need attention, that we can respond, with the full backing of our town departments.
Yeah, and one follow-up question to that. I do know that, as Chief Michael Sarlo said, language access, or access to language, is a big point of emphasis that he wants to make. With that being said, are there programs for officers to learn different languages? Not saying for any specific reasons, but I do know that the Spanish population out here, it would make sense for everyone if communication could be made instead of having to wait for an officer who does speak Spanish,
etc. We do have some Spanish-speaking officers, but what we also have, which we've instituted with the assistance of OLAs, we have the language line, which officers have a cell phone. They get in a situation where they're having trouble communicating, they can use the assistance of a translator on dedicated phone line, which also adds to the communication ability of our police in any particular situation.
That's great to hear. And then finally, this is kind of some people say it's often that they don't know any of the police anymore. There's so many reasons for that. It could be housing, it could be et cetera. Have there been any conversations about getting more young people involved to want to be police officers in the community and stay and live in their community?
Well, I mean, we do have the, traffic control officer programs, both the town and the village, and that's long been sort of a feeder into, the police department, where young people can work the summer job as a traffic control officer, dealing mostly with parking violations. That gives them some, on the beat kind of familiarity and exposure to law enforcement as a career. And there have been many cases where local young people have started as TCOs and end up, going to police academy and ultimately becoming part of the force here or in the village. That's something that we, see will likely continue. But just as it is for anyone in any position working within the community, housing can be an issue. So, that's getting into a whole nother area, which we are working to address. Tomorrow's work session will, have a discussion about the draft legislation for the Community Housing Fund, which is the 0.5% transfer tax that was signed into law by the governor late last year. And this is our first look as a town board at the potential legislation, enabling legislation that would allow us to have that fund developed as what I think will be the most significant tool in being able to help address the housing crisis that we have. So, look forward to that discussion tomorrow. And then the following work session on the 17th, we'll have presentations on housing. The entire work session will be almost entirely devoted, with the exception of the CARP that you mentioned. We'll be having a discussion about the Coastal Assessment Resiliency Plan and just update the community on where we are. So in addition to, the legislation, which we'll be discussing again, we'll also have a presentation of the Community Housing Fund plan, which is also an important element, as well as updates on various projects that the town has in the works for developing housing, whether it's the apartments on Route 114, 3 Mile Harbor, and single family homes on 27 in Panago. So, that's all coming up.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. I know I have my housing show here at LTV, so I'm excited to see all the updates and talk about it with people. And we'll get more into that after your sessions, and we'll talk more next time on Ask the Supervisor.
Great. Thanks so much for having me today, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Peter. That was Ask the Supervisor. Thank you so much. It's Monday the 9th at 5:30. Coming up next is Ask the Mayor with East Hampton Village Mayor Jerry Larsen. Thank you and have a good night.
Take care and be well, everyone.
West Woods
Oh, good.
that I could probably stay with for the month.
For the month.
Yeah.
That's good.
We're live. Sorry. And we're live. Welcome.
really?
Yeah, welcome to Ask the Mayor. Still dealing with we have a great technical crew behind us. We got John and Chapman in the control room, still working out some kinks. But I do love the cold open, kind of like they do on Comedy Central. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
How are
it's
you
been
doing?
a while since we were able to do this.
Yeah, it's been like a month, right,
Yeah,
or more.
it's great to get us back
Some
in here.
COVID issues there for a while, so
We couldn't get Chris in today. He's
Chris is-
playing the dad role.
Chris is so busy.
I know.
With,
He's got
he's
little
got
league
both kids
tonight,
in little
I think.
leagues. And one of his, I think his son is in hockey as well. So they're all over the place.
I gotta hand it to him. He looks young. He looks
He
young.
is young.
No, I know. So he sounds like he's got 7 kids. The way he talks about them, it's hilarious.
Well, I think they're in a lot of different activities,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're busy.
Let's get into it. How was the May 5K that you recently did?
It was terrific. I wish I could have run in it, but I did walk it with my wife. So, and we did finish it, so that was
Nice,
good.
Nice.
But it was really a great event, and it went to benefit the Family Service League. And I think the 2 girls who did a great job, and their names escape me right now as we're sitting here, but they did a terrific job, and they raised, I think, close to $20,000. It was just a fun event.
Yeah.
And I know Marcos, the village administrator, and the foundation, Brad Billett, are going to, they've been talking about organizing one as a fundraiser for the foundation, but it'll be in the fall.
Nice.
And it'll be a combination 5K, and it'll also have a half a marathon
Oh, wow.
aspect to
That's
it. So
very intense.
it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And it's a good fundraiser, and the money will go to the foundation and will go towards Herrick Park.
That's
So,
great. And we'll get into Herrick Park in a little bit for those who are wondering when we'll talk about it. And then you had the HLA kickoff May 7th, this past Saturday at Main Beach. How'd that go?
I didn't make it up there,
Oh,
but I
okay.
heard it went.
Yeah.
I heard it went really well.
Yeah, I was a part of the original HLA Hampton's lifeguard when we started with junior lifeguarding. We started with 7 of us at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 7 junior lifeguards and maybe 15 lifeguards at the
Wow.
national tournament. And then it boomed. Now there's tryouts just to go to nationals. It's insane. But the junior lifeguard program is proven to work. We've seen it. We've seen the lifeguards go through the program. It
Right,
works.
and they become our full-time
Yeah.
lifeguards, and this, we have our new beach manager, Drew Smith, so I know he's working very well with John Ryan, and they're just making the program even better.
Yeah, I've known both of them my whole life, so they're great for this town. Speaking of the beach, number 3 beach of top beaches, best beaches in the USA is Main Beach in East Hampton. Congratulations.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you. I wish Chris was here to take
I know it's his,
credit.
it's
That
his
was
thing.
his
I
dream
know.
to get us back in the top 10, which that I think is coming out in June from Dr. Beach.
And next year we're going for number 1.
But this is, there was no other beaches, I believe, on the East Coast that were in this top 30.
Well,
So this is a great,
the upgrades alone have been incredible.
yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of work up there, and a lot of credit goes to the village administrator. I know I say that on a lot of shows, but
Yeah.
he really does work hard and has a vision and is very, very helpful for me to have somebody like that. So I have to give him a lot of credit for getting a lot of things done that, we may have the ideas, but he actually executes them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's the man behind the scenes. He won't come on this show.
No.
And I tell him that every time. Come on, come on. You were elected as the VP of East End Supervisors and Mayor Association of Suffolk County. That is one of the longest titles of all time.
Right.
But congratulations.
Thanks.
And what does that do? What does that mean? What are you in charge of?
It's an organization that was formed many years ago, I believe, and it's made up of all of the town supervisors
Okay.
and the village mayors in Suffolk County,
Okay.
or on the East End.
Mhm.
And Jay Schneiderman from Southampton Town is the president, and I was elected as the vice president.
Oh,
So
wow. Nice. And does that entail any
I was the only one that
special-
ran.
Is there
by the way.
anything specifically that you need to oversee or do?
No,
now?
it's just different projects. Like right now, I'm working on with Fred Thiel, and I'm trying to get legislation passed to remove the 20% cap on the CPF
Oh, okay.
when it pertains to water quality.
Mm.
And the reason for that is the town and the village right now we have a contract
Yep.
on CPF money. All CPF money that's collected within the township, the town controls, but a lot of it is generated through village
Yeah.
sales. So years ago, there was a contract between the town and village, which is still standing today, that 10% of that money is guaranteed back to the village.
Or as you would see it, only 10% of the money is
Only
guaranteed
10% of
back
the
to
money, right, good
village.
point. However, that's the way the law is written.
Yeah.
And the town is kind of restricted on how much money, they can only give 20% of the whole number. So I would like to see that 20% removed. I
Yeah.
mean, we're trying to put in a
Oh yeah,
septic system.
yeah, we've talked about it ad nauseum.
There's a huge pipe that runs from 114 all the way to Georgia Pond. That is, for runoff of road runoff, and that all needs to be replaced. A lot of that money could go to that.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of money that we could use, and quite frankly, in the village, we don't have a lot of open space to buy.
Yeah.
So the water quality is really important. We have two beautiful ponds in the village.
Yeah.
You have Hook Pond and you have Georgia Pond,
Mhm.
and the watershed. We sit right over the watershed for the business district does
Yeah.
for Hook Pond. So this money could go a long way. So that's one of the projects I'm working on right now with Fred Thiel and the towns
Yeah.
and village
We-
supervisors and the mayors.
We love Fred Thiel here. We're very pro.
Yeah. No, Fred is
Thiel,
really
NLTV.
terrific.
Yeah, you know what? Not for nothing, he cares about everyone.
Right.
He doesn't pick a side. He cares about everyone, and that's why I can openly say this on this show. He doesn't play sides. He helps EastEnders.
He gets a lot done.
Which you have to respect.
Yeah, they did I don't know if you were aware, they just did the groundbreaking
Yep, I saw that.
with the emergency
Massive.
room.
That was massive.
And Fred
yeah.
Thiel and the state senator,
Mhm.
Palumbo.
Paloma.
They were able to get a $10 million grant towards that project. So
Huge, and we need it.
yeah,
I mean,
it's going to be a terrific.
you know just as well as I
terrific spot.
do, as the head of the village police for all those years, we needed it.
Right.
We needed it. I
Well-
mean, the emergency services need it. We
Well,
see.
the village back in 2013, at my urging,
Mhm.
created the paid paramedic program.
Yep.
We brought that to the village. Now, I'm really happy to announce that June 1st, we're bringing paid EMTs to the village.
That's massive.
We're not the first department
Yeah.
to do it. There's other municipalities that are doing it, but we are starting that June 1st.
But it's necessary.
It is necessary. The call volume goes way up in the summer. The volunteers, it's hard to find volunteers
Yeah.
because everyone's working 2 or 3 jobs to
Mhm.
afford to live here. So this is another way to help the volunteers and to help the community.
This just came into my head right now, but is there any way for maybe to look into possibilities for having paramedics and EMTs for internships for college credit over the summer? To work with local Stony Brook University and get maybe kids who want emergency medicine experience, who are going into pre-med or whatever it may be, they could, intern and we'll get work.
That's a
with
great
them.
idea.
I mean, it's just something I thought of,
Right.
and I think, as you know, I have the housing show. I'm trying to think of everything outside the
Right.
box. That's just who
No,
I
it's a
am.
good idea. We could get more people interested in this,
Yeah.
this profession.
Yeah, because I know Tom Field over in Amagansett. Everybody knows Tom Field. He does the CPR classes. He's been a volunteer EMT for decades.
Right.
Decades here, and he's saved countless lives. I mean, more than everyone in this building's hands could count.
Right.
Uh,
Now, there's a lot of dedicated volunteers, but there's just not enough of them
Yeah.
right now. So
Yeah, I personally, I was saved by one when I was less than a year old, and then I was saved by a police officer a few months later. So I had breathing issues, and so I know just as well. My family knows just as well how important both not only the police departments are, but the volunteers as well. Yeah, and let's move on to what we got next here. New fire department trucks. The East Hampton Village Board approved a $6.8 million bond appropriation bill, $4.6 million of which will be spent on fire trucks, among other things needed for the fire department. It'll be a 15-year bond instead of a 10-year bond, which is meant to be a little bit more manageable financially, especially with rising inflation and the potential of the word's escaping me, but the potential of the stock market crashing again.
recession,
Yes,
yeah.
the recession. Tell me about the village's new fleets. I know that I read that some of the fleets were as old, or trucks and whatever, were as old as 30 years when really they shouldn't be lasting longer than 20 years.
Correct.
So tell me how not only was this vital, but what we're getting.
Yeah, so that was a can that had been kicked down the road for a long time.
Clearly.
And as we discover more and more things in the village, we're discovering that that was kind of the way things were done in the past. So now it's all coming due.
Yeah.
So we have all these fire trucks that are due. I think there's 5 fire
Yeah.
trucks. So, you know, it's a big burden right now. But luckily, the timing couldn't be better for us, actually, because we are actually finishing up a couple of bonds.
Good.
So this money that we're expending will actually just be replaced. Yes, you could argue we're spending a little more in interest because we took the 20-year instead of the 15, but, you know, it's financially, you know, our treasurer thought this was a safer way to go, and I trust her, and that's the way we went.
Bottom line is, it's hard to make financial decisions right now, regardless if it's 4.6 million.
Well, the village is
or-
in very good,
Yeah,
we're actually in better financial position than we were 2 years ago when,
it's great to hear.
yeah, we're working on a budget now because our fiscal year is August 1st.
Okay.
So we're working on that now. Dominique Cummings, who's doing a fabulous job as treasurer, we promoted her when we took over, and she works very closely with Marcos on this budget, and I think we're going to be really happy with what we have coming out.
Yeah.
So.
I meant to bring this up when we were talking about the beach earlier. It didn't catch my eye in time, but there's been some confusion, misinformation, and
Really?
Yeah, it's very normal for small towns. But I just want to set the record straight once and for all. Main Beach will be allowed to sell alcohol under very specific conditions once they obtain a license. They being the sea camps that run the beach hut there, and they do have their father owns Brent's. They have a liquor license, so it's not really about when or if they'll get it. It's about when. Can you explain not only the thought process to allow it, but the very specific conditions in which
Right.
you can drink at Main Beach? Because I don't want to further create misinformation.
Right. So our board, which is made up of 5,
Mm-hmm.
voted the other day 5-0 to allow the beach hut to sell beer and wine
Okay.
from noon till closing, which is about 8 p.m.
Okay.
From noon till 5, if you buy a beer or wine, it can only be consumed on the deck under the enclosure, not enclosure, but over the overhang
Yeah.
of that deck. So there's about 5 or 6 tables, and you have to buy food if you're going to consume, if you're going to buy beer or wine. I don't want anybody to get confused on alcohol, so I keep saying beer and wine.
No liquor.
Right. So it's beer and wine, and you can only buy it from the beach hut if you buy food from them.
Okay.
And then you can only consume it from 12 till 5 on the deck.
Now I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. What about that one guy that's going to buy 8 orders of fries and 8 beers? Is there a cap system?
No,
Is there
there'll be
way?
a limit. I believe Susan has a 2-drink limit
Okay.
on. I can't be sure about that, but I think that's what they were talking about.
Now, I think some people have also gotten confused as to if you're not at a lifeguarded beach, if you walk down from Main Beach
Right.
and you're officially off the ropes, as people say, can you then drink on your own?
Well, this is the funny thing.
Yeah.
So in the village, the 5
Yeah.
village-controlled beaches, we'll call them, there is no drinking until 6 p.m. on the beach,
Okay.
anywhere. The only place you can drink is on the deck, and if you buy food.
Now.
So now, if you went to Montauk or Amagansett, other than Indian Wells, leave Indian Wells out of it,
Yeah.
because that was an issue several years ago, and they
Oh, I
changed
know.
the laws.
I know. Trust me.
But if you go to any other beach in the township of East Hampton, you can drink on the beach anytime. Bring your own alcohol.
And so,
So the
peop-
village beaches are the only ones, the village-controlled beaches are the only beaches that you cannot drink until
So I just want to
5
make
p.m.
it. I just want to make it very clear. 3 p.m. on a Friday in July, you're gonna get fined if you have a beer. Theoretically,
On the beach.
Yeah.
Yes,
in theory.
yes.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to clear it up. I've heard so many different things. I've been confused 6 different times. But it also, in a way, shows progress. Look at how far the Main Beach Pavilion has came in the last, 3 years
Right.
now?
Right. And again, this is not, you know, I had people saying to me, what are you going to do about the buses of kids?
Mhm.
None of that's going to happen. If you hear things like that, it's a scare tactic.
Yep.
It's a fear, trying to generate fear. None of that's going to happen. This is an amenity for people who are at the beach who choose to have a glass of wine or a glass of beer with their sandwich while they're there with their family or they're on vacation. That's all this is. There's probably no beach, no resort community in the country or the world that you couldn't have a glass of wine or a beer while you're at the beach
Very right.
on vacation. So this is nothing more than that.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's going to be a big moneymaker for the sea camps. And quite frankly, after 5 p.m., people come to the beach with their own food, their own alcohol, if that's legal.
Mhm.
And I don't think people are then going to go spend the extra money at the beach hut
It's
when
fair.
you can bring your own.
Yeah.
So it's just an amenity that I think is nice, and
No, I get,
it's
I
a
get it.
beautiful
Yeah.
venue. So
No,
if
it
you
is.
go up there for an early dinner, you're sitting there having a burger. I think she's going to run some specials. She was talking about like a burger and a beer
Yeah.
for $20, and I think it's going to work out fine.
Here's how I explain it to people. And this is completely honest. As Jerry said, it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be like going to a Yankee game and paying $12 a beer. I mean, people aren't going to be buying 7 of these things. I really don't think so. And if they do, they're going to bring it on their own anyway. I mean,
Right.
I'm just being honest.
You're absolutely right. It's
Uh,
not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah, it's there to be there. Yeah, I get it. All right, let's move on to the wonderful new Herrick Park renovation.
yes,
I know this is a bit older news, but it's also, we haven't talked about it yet. Phase 1 is going to be the tennis courts are going to flip places with the softball field.
correct.
The full-size baseball diamond moves north so that it sits diagonally across the softball field, which is generally
Correct.
how most people do it, 2 fields facing diagonal. Full-size soccer football field shares a portion with the outfields of the baseball softball fields.
You're right on it.
Sounds very nice. And then phase 2, the basketball courts are going to be pushed north and addressed along with new pickleball courts, which seems to be the biggest rising sport in coastal areas, is pickleball, if not the whole country. And bleachers and dugouts for both fields. So you really have a full vision for Herrick
Correct.
Park.
Yeah, and we're going to, we're moving forward with phase 2. We're putting a committee together, and we're going to start phase 2 committee in September.
Okay.
And then the foundation is raising money to start putting that towards phase 2. And then we have the other property, the Dayton property that we bought through CPF money.
Yep.
And eventually, once we work out the details, we're going to take that fence down and expand the park into the Dayton
Oh, wow.
property.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be very nice. It's going to add almost 40% to the size of our park.
Yeah, and big thank you to Bradford Belay. He donated $2 million for the venture. At least that's what I read.
He's raised.
Oh, raised.
Yeah, he's raised. So Brad Billett is the president of our newly founded East Hampton Village Foundation.
Yeah.
And their mission is it's twofold. One is to raise money for things that the village needs or wants. And 2 is to help bring business back into our downtown. And that's through events. So the foundation, you'll see during this summer, is going to be sponsoring a lot of events,
Fun.
raising money to help sponsor those events, and then raising money to put towards the different phases of Herrick Park.
So when phase 2 and if there's an eventual phase 3, when it's all said and done, we're talking sports leagues, adult and youth. We're talking concerts.
I don't know if you'd call it a concert so much as maybe music in the park,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Art in the park.
Because you have to remember, we still have residents
Yeah.
around the park. And that's part of the reason for flipping the basketball and moving the basketball
Oh, really?
to the more commercial area of the park.
Oh, okay.
So if you think about the tennis court, we're moving it,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be right behind Stop and Shop.
That makes sense.
So all the noise that's
Yep.
generated from tennis and the basketball is going to be around the corner, and pickleball, all border Stop and Shop. So all your noise is on Stop and Shop side.
That's awesome.
The other side of the park off of Newtown is commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And then right behind that, through CPF, we purchased that property as well.
Oh, wow.
So we now own everything on Muchmore Lane, except there's only one residential house left.
So there's a lot of potential for the new
Yeah.
park.
But On the back side of the park, that's all residential back there,
Mhm.
behind like the LVIS building.
Mhm.
There's homes back there. So we want to kind of keep the music and other noise away from that area, so we're not disturbing neighbors.
Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. The park's needed it for years
Yeah.
now. I mean, it really went over the last 10 years or so. But like everything else, you guys are attacking everything left and right one at a time, including Wyborg's Beach, 300 square foot bathrooms, proposed to be built by Vincent Guardiello. I'm
Very
gonna
good.
I'm gonna go
That's
with
very
that
good.
one. A principal in the Rayner Group, a civil engineering firm. Rayner Group's been used a lot out here. 2 parking spots would be quote unquote lost under the present plan, but that's to fit the bathrooms. Bathrooms will be in the northeast corner of the lot, citing traffic flow as the main decider. Walls will have a decorative look as opposed to being concrete structures, which we are used to seeing at, per se, Indian Wells or
Right.
Atlantic Avenue. It seems as though everywhere in the town and village is getting a new septic system. Public water and electric service are included in the proposal. 2 outdoor showers will be built on the east side, drinking fountain included, small storage area for lifeguards, and a shower drain into the dry well to create capture roof runoff. And of course, it's going to be ADA acceptable with bathrooms, more people at the beach once the project is finished. Is there any truth to that? With bathrooms, Wyborg's is going to be overpopulated with people?
Well, there's concern of that. I know there is a small group of people that are concerned with that increase of traffic overpopulating the beach. And I understand their concerns, but public safety is kind of, takes the front, the
Yeah.
forefront of that. So we have had increased life saves down there. I think it's important that we have lifeguards. And what people don't understand is if we have lifeguards, the health department requires that we have bathrooms.
Legally, they need to go to the bathroom.
Right, well, if you really think about how disgusting this really is, that where are these people going to the bathroom now for all these years, So,
The ocean.
there's a small group of people that do not want this. So, in fairness, and to try to dispel,
Well, devil's
Any
advocate.
problems?
Yeah, devil's advocate would say there's already 4 lifeguarded beaches.
right,
Why can't we have one that's not lifeguarded, which means there'll be less kids and it's more adult and more quiet? That's the argument.
well, the problem is that people still drown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're bringing lifeguards, to make sure people don't drown. So there's a lot of people already using that beach, and we've already saved. I know last summer we had a few saves down there. So one life is too many.
No,
to
I'll
lose.
tell you,
So,
my biggest fear is going to Wyborg's with my family and having to have to save someone.
right,
I am lifeguard trained. I haven't saved someone in a long time. I have a bad shoulder. It's a legitimate fear. And
Right.
the public, people like me or you or John or Matt Chapman shouldn't have to think about that when they're trying to enjoy the beach.
right. So myself and the deputy mayor have talked about this, because the
Mhm.
the beaches are really under his
Yeah.
purview. We've talked about this, and I think we've come up with a plan to try to alleviate the concerns of everybody. So this summer, we will not have anything in place. So we're gonna have another summer like the last 50 years, right? So there'll be no lifeguards, there'll be no bathrooms. What we're gonna do is we're going to get data. So we're gonna, every day at 2 or at 11 and 2, we're gonna do a head count on the beach. So we'll have known data at the end of the summer, how many people were on the beach, not how many cars, but how many actual people. And then next summer, we believe that we're going to bring in temporary bathrooms.
Mm.
We just have to get it approved through the health department. So we'll bring in temporary bathrooms, and we'll do the same count again
With lifeguards next
with
summer.
lifeguards. And then we'll be able to say, yes, the small group of people that are against it were correct, and we've now created a monster. Or we'll say to the small group and everybody that we did our data, we did our study, and there's no fear of this. So now we will build a permanent structure.
Now, I'm just clarifying for the public out there. Right now, if someone drowns at that beach, there's really 3 options. Maidstone, the private club, who now has I believe they have a jet ski.
I don't know that. Okay.
They have something. They could get down there. Main Beach could get down there. or Ocean Rescue will respond to the call
Right.
/ police officer.
Depends on the hour and the day, you know.
Oh yeah, after
Yeah.
5 p.m. it's definitely Ocean Rescue. But
Right.
I've seen it firsthand. Lifeguards run down the beach, RVing down the beach. Like you said, one life is too many.
Right.
It's that simple. Quickly here, we only got a few more minutes, about 5 minutes. Two topics I'd like to touch up on here. The East Hampton Farmers Market resumed. How'd that go?
Oh, it's going great. Yeah.
And when is that for the public?
It's on Sundays from 9 to 2, I believe it is.
Awesome. And that is where?
Right behind Stop and Shop in
Perfect.
Herrick Park.
So anyone can come?
Anybody.
Awesome. I'll be
Bring your
there.
dog. You can. It's a really it's a really nice community event. You see people you haven't seen in a while, and everybody's there. They're walking. It's a beautiful day.
Oh, it's
and
great,
everybody
yeah.
loves it.
Yeah, I used to. I know the one in Springs is pretty popular
Yeah.
on Saturday mornings down there.
It's
Farmers.
very nice. It's going to get larger and larger, and I think they did last summer, right around Memorial Day. I think they started the Fridays and Sundays. So
Awesome. And
a
then
lot of events scheduled for
oh
the
yeah,
summer.
it's
And
trust
the
me.
library authors night is coming into Herrick Park in August.
Oh, that's incredible.
which is
yeah.
going to be
Are we having the Main Beach concert series? Is that coming back?
yes. Main Beach Concert Series starts Tuesday nights. June 28th, I think, is the first show.
Okay.
We're doing 11 weeks, 11 Tuesdays.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun. I think we're having 2 bands each night, but it'll still end by 8 o'clock. So
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna try. I don't
It's
know.
a really fun event, very family oriented. There's more kids down there than
Yeah.
I think adults, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I've seen families having great times down there. So
Yeah, it's so packed that people leave early to beat traffic. Like,
Right.
Like going to a
yeah, it's like going to a
game.
baseball game
Yeah.
and you leave before the
Yeah,
night.
oh, it's the 8th inning. Let's go home.
Yeah.
And that's how my dad is. My mom and dad will travel separately.
Well, your
to the
dad
concert
drove
series.
his.
I know.
He took
I
the
know,
beach down. So.
I know. Let's get into last topic here. We got 3 minutes. This is a more of an overarching thing that everyone in the community needs to think about. As you know, I have a show here, all in affordable housing. I'm trying to connect with people about the affordable housing crisis out here. Growing concern of not being able to find workers for various businesses in the Hamptons, whether it's restaurants, shops, lifeguards, police, volunteers, etc. Every single niche industry. Again, very broad, but in roughly 2 minutes or so, what type of conversations have you been having with different businesses in the village about attacking this problem?
Well, it's a really difficult problem, and at least from the village side of things, we have passed a law recently that if you're going to be employed in the village of East Hampton, you have to reside within the township to get hired.
So that's to promote hiring locals.
That's promote hiring local.
Awesome.
So we're trying to do our part in that. I've talked about it. So, when I was running for mayor, I talked about it, and we actually made it a law. So it's really something I'm passionate about. I think first opportunity should go to people who live in our community.
Yeah.
And as far as businesses goes, it's tough. And, I know they have that commuter train, but it's a really tough situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's really any answers. I mean, we've looked at a couple of different lots to try to create affordable housing, but again, we don't have a lot of open space in the village. So it's a tough road, and I know the town board has been working very hard on trying to.
Yeah. And the one thing I will say about workers is people like me and my friends, we all were working at 14 years old.
Right.
So I know that a lot of people say, this or that. Everyone out here is working already for the most part.
Right.
It really is. That's how much of a shortage there is, whether it's Monday, May 9th or 2 months, July, May 9th.
Right.
There's going to be a shortage. So be patient, everyone.
Yeah.
Be
And
patient.
the other thing, real quickly, to
Yeah.
go back to not only employees,
Yeah.
but businesses. So if we're bidding out a job, first priority goes to businesses that are located in the town of East Hampton.
Even if they're underbid?
No, I mean, the first bids will go
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
out
was-
to them, and if
yeah.
nobody comes in, then we have to send it out to
Awesome.
other. But we try to keep everything within the township.
Sounds good. Any last thoughts here as the show? It's already 6 o'clock. It goes by fast.
Yeah, it does, goes really
Yeah,
fast.
any,
It's very enjoyable.
Yeah,
But,
thank you. Any upcoming thoughts with this week or next week?
No, I just, I don't have, we lost one of our retired
Oh,
members.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Al Anderson passed away
Mhm.
a couple of days ago, and, we're preparing for that
Mhm.
funeral, and, he was a 20-year veteran of the police department. I worked
Mhm.
with him. I actually went to high school with him.
Oh, wow.
and he's going to be missed. He was a very nice man. I think 38 years in the fire department. He's got a terrific family, and he was just such a nice guy, and it's a shame.
And then finally, before we end the show, Friday or Saturday, June 4th, is the first Pride Parade in
First
the
Pride
village.
Parade, yes. The Hampton's Pride is organizing a Pride Parade that's going to come down Main Street, down Newtown, and at the train station.
Awesome. We're going to send one of our interns out to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good. Tom House from
Yep.
Bridgehampton.
Yep, I went
He's
to
the
his
president.
I went to his event at Bridgehampton.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
president of Hampton's Pride, and he's doing a great job organizing it.
Yeah, so please
I'm really
come.
happy
Yeah.
that he's doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
I encouraged him to do it. So
I went to the Bridgehampton one, and except for one honking horn and explicative, everyone was supportive.
yeah,
Everyone. So, yeah, show up. June 4th, First Hampton's Pride Parade. I'll be there probably, and among others. So let's show up to that. Thank you for viewing Ask the Mayor live here at LTV. I'm Matt Lowndes for Mayor Jerry Larsen. Thank you so much. And thank you to John and Matt Chapman in the control room. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
thanks,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah, thanks.
It's good to see you.
You too.